So what I decided to do in the van, what I've decided to do, is go one step further, and I'm actually taking out the boards, these bits, and I'm even taking out the backs of the doors, the sliding door and the driver's and passenger door at the front, and any other panel I can get to, and I'm putting in sound deadening panels and further insulation as well, because why not? I have the time to do it right now, and it's something that obviously needs doing because they've not done it. So yeah, I'm not probably going to show you all of that. I might show little clips of it, but to say that this wouldn't be the ideal way that you should insulate your van would be an understatement, and also to say that you know, this isn't the correct way to do it as well is an understatement. This is me trying to well, put something right without destroying my van and without obviously having a bare shell of a van starting from scratch, which ideally is probably the right way to do it. So yeah, that's kind of where we're at, and that's obviously going to be a delay of another week or so while I take things apart and then put them back together and do things like that. So we'll see how we get on, but all the parts are arriving now, so I've got more and more of the bits I need to put the electrical system back in, and to move things around and make things safer and stuff. Obviously I'm going to do a far better job this time than I did the other time, because this is going to be permanent. So I've ordered better things to make it neater, and obviously we've developed what we used and therefore what's needed, so things are going to change from that as well. So work really, I guess. Lots of work, John. So I said I wasn't going to show you what I was doing, but then I figured, I don't know, I guess some of you are probably nosy, some of you might be interested just to see what's behind all the panels in the van and everything I've installed. So I thought as well it'll help me actually tell you what I'm doing about some of the upgrades. So let's just talk you through what I've been doing the last few days while I don't stand on the floor or on everything. So over the last couple of days I've sorted out the rear doors. Now the rear doors are covered with this fiberglass kind of cover, and if you see those things at the top there, that is Sikaflex. Yeah, they stuck the rear covers on with Sikaflex, which meant that it was quite tricky to get them off, but you know me, perseverance. So yeah, got them off, and Mandy's now going to coat them with some fabric she bought. It's like a vintage world map kind of fabric, so that'll cover up the fairly boring vanilla kind of like plasticky look, so that'll be quite nice. It did allow me to obviously get into the back of the doors, which were totally void. I've complained about noise and things like that, so maybe recommended this. So the back doors are now all done at the top there, and the same there. Again, this side insulation behind. All I need to do now on this side is to stick this stuff over there, and then once I've stuck that over there, I can put the board back then. The other beauty about getting all this off is I can see now where we need to attach the bed. So what we're going to do is put some brackets into here, and just hang it low, so get the like an L bracket, hang it low, and then we're going to hang the supports off either side for the bed. So so at least that way now I can see where the bed's going to be, what sort of height, work out my shelves underneath it and things like that. Now the crucial part about having this all out is the ability to route cables. So for example, I've now routed the solar panel cables through the back there, and I'm also changing some of my wiring as well, so I can route cables down that way. If you noticed up there, that's now far neater, so all my cables are routed because I pulled all that paneling off up there. And yeah, it's just generally being able to tuck all the wires in out of the way, put extra points in. So for example, going to put some of these in, which are USB points to be able to charge mobile devices and everything else. So I'm going to put these in so they stick out just a little bit from there, rather than using the USB ports on here, which I don't like at all. They're very flimsy. The lights are good with the dimmer thing and everything, but the USB ports are very flimsy when you start to plug in and out every night and morning or whatever. So I'm going to use these instead, far more durable, which obviously they need wiring behind there. But these need wiring into their own circuit, not on the lights. So the lights are one circuit, these need wiring onto a separate circuit. So I need to put one of these up here, one there for my side, connect them together, and then bring a wire down the back there so it all goes down into the nice cable management system I'll create, where all the batteries and everything are going to go. I've also got a fan which I'm going to install with a speed controller, so that I can cool down, or rather expel, the hot air at the back of the fridge and therefore cool the fridge down. And then once I've got all my cables in here, I can then put all the panels back in and make it all look nice like that side again, put it on this side. So that's pretty good. So it looks like we've got these 4 holes, hot water, cold water. This is the electrics for obviously the 2 batteries, and also probably a sender unit for the water tanks under there. So the first thing I need to do is work out how I'm going to place the batteries over this area. So I'll probably raise the batteries up on some wood or some sort, and then once I've got the battery height sorted so that these can pass underneath, to seal these up so nothing can go in or out of there, nothing can wibble around or anything like that and vibrate free. So that's the first job, and then I can get on with the wiring. So fortunately I recycled everything, broke down everything that we stripped out from all these sections, included the slats that went over the bed boxes, all the slats that were laid out. So that means I've got all these. So the slats are a really good height to keep the battery box over the cables. So that's those holes now sealed up. So that should hopefully help with insulation, water ingress and all that kind of stuff. That is probably not the best thing in the world to use, but that's Sikaflex. So it means it's going to be slightly flexible, but it is perfect for sealing things and bonding things and stuff like that.
Hiya. Hiya, how you doing?
Alright. Do you like my mess?
You have made a mess. Got to do the little dance.
That's my work area. Just that spot there.
Yeah,
my kneeling pad. Praying to the wiring gods. Yeah, that's it. Pray to the wiring gods that I can make it all work.
Yeah.
So we've got 2 130 amp hour batteries, and they're joined together, so I still get 12 volts. And then I've got the outgoing voltage here and the incoming ground there, so it crosses the 2 batteries, so they're a battery bank that way. Then when it connects into the Sargent system, there's a 20 amp fuse there, and that goes underneath the floor to there. On this side I've put in a 12-way fuse box, kind of overkill for where I want to be right now, but you never know about the future. Bluetooth controller for the solar charger, and then 2 isolators. One isolator isolates the solar, and the second isolator basically cuts off all power. So they both shut off like that. That means there's no power getting through to anything now, it's all dead. And then with them both like that, that means power's back on, and the solar controller is charging the batteries, and all the Sargent system and everything like that is all on. So the next thing I really need to do is go through the Sargent system, and there were 2 extra holes here. I've sealed those up, as I did sealing the holes up underneath there. And then we've also got these holes under here I need to deal with as well. Once I've got all this out of the way, you see those there? So I need to cover all those up, and then obviously I've got to sort out all that mess of electrics. So I managed to trace all the wires back to the Sargent system for the 240 volts, and then I've just put a bit of a loop in the end there in the connectors, just so I can go around and test the electrical sockets so I can find where they are. So I've shorted out the live and the neutral. As you can hear, that's a dead short. So I was able to go around the entire van, all the 240 volt sockets with that little test, and trace back all the wires so I can wire it all into the inverter. So I've found out which of the cables that go from the Sergeant system to all the sockets. There's some separate ones as well. So we've got an orange one that's there that goes into the boiler, so you can have that on heat. There's a black one there that goes to the fridge, and then these white ones go to the sockets. So what I'm going to do is disconnect one of them from there, this one here. I'm just going to disconnect that, and I'm actually going to put a socket on there, because the idea is we'll never really have hookup, but if we do, at least I'll have a socket based on the hookup power then, rather than going through the inverter. So we'll have one socket that I'll place around there that'll be purely from you know, sort of like hookup power. So there we go, that's the inverter now supplying the 240 volt sockets around the van. So now anywhere in the van we can just plug into the existing 240 sockets that were installed, plug in any chargers or anything like that, and then yeah, all working and dusted. And obviously then if you wanted to, using the remote, which I need to place somewhere a bit better around the van, switch off the inverter, all the lights go off, and obviously then it stops working on the sockets and the sockets go dead. There isn't a great deal I can do to try and neaten that up because of where they've put all the holes and everything. So for example, that's a drain hole, that's a drain hole, you got gas pipe in, and then you got a drop vent there for the extra gas, you got drop vent there, so I can't really move that much. So when I stripped down the old system, I kept everything. So I've got all the bed slats, got all the metal frame pieces, all the screws, all the bits of wood, all the joining stuff. Those are the bed slats there. Those are all the pieces of wood that made up the side that had the electrical system and everything in it. And on this side, obviously I need to break that down yet. That's the other side that's got the heater system and all that kind of stuff on there. So yeah, I need to break that down. And the ability of kind of like breaking it down is I get to recycle it as much as I possibly can. So that, number one, I'm not wasting money. That if I can reuse something that's here, that's brilliant. And number two, it'll match in with the other colour of the wood and things like that in the van. So another little thing that I found on the van is to do with the Truma boiler system. So there's an outlet which is actually an inlet as well. So it's kind of like two tubes passing hot air and cold air. So there's an exhaust, which is the inner pipe, and then there's an inlet, which is the outer pipe. And whilst the outer pipe was fastened down, the inner pipe was not fastened. So that was just kind of sat on there. This is the device for outside. That wasn't fastened, although it's screwed, but it actually wasn't fastened, it was just loose on the inside. And interestingly enough, at the other end of the pipe, the same thing there, the outside was fastened but the inside wasn't fastened at all, which is slightly sort of worrying in the fact that, like I say, that pipe specifically is the exhaust pipe. So that is the burnt fuel which is supposed to obviously go outside. You know, this wasn't fastened down. The gas tank underneath had leaks in it, and now I'm finding that the exhaust pipe wasn't truly fastened in correctly either. So yeah, this is just a catalogue of really poor workmanship really. Now just to show you how easy, difficult it is, this outer pipe does stretch back like that, so that does give you the opportunity to get that end pipe on the inner bit and then the outer pipe over the outer bit. So it's fiddly, but it's doable. The installation of this stipulates that it has to be installed in the direction of travel, that the exhaust has to be a certain distance away from a window. so it can't be in so many centimeters from an open window or an open vent. There is an inlet vent down there, you just about see it, so that's why the inlet for this can't be anywhere near that. It's over there, and then it's lower than the window, so that's kind of like just the best place for this to be installed. The next phase of this is to box these sections off, so that, you know, that can't be messed with and that can't be messed with and whatever, and obviously to cover over the top so that you can then put storage and things like that on there. Same down there. I need to do what I did for the battery boxes and use some of the slats for the bedding, to create a box section around there to put a plinth on to go over those pipes that come up, so that we can then store boxes and everything on top of there. So this is where we're up to now. I've got use of the old aluminium to create the bed frame there, and got the angles all done, so not only is that more lightweight than it was before, it's neater, and it's stronger than the wooden version that I had in the last one. All these boxes, as you can see, have got the original fittings in, so they're reused to save me money and also to keep the look and feel of the van as much as possible, you know, factory. So we've got all the outlets in there coming out, you know, back of the van, warm the back of the van, and then we've got 2 outlets down there, both from the top outlets. This one goes to the middle of the van via that one, and then there's another one down the bottom there that goes through the toilet and then out the front of the van with the 2 outlets that are installed down there. So that's our hot water and heating system. That's a bit of extra storage space that we never once had, because that sat in front of it, obviously for easier access, and then behind it was kind of just no man's land of wasted space and rat's nest of cables. So that's our new kind of little storage space for, you know, whatever we choose to put in there. Like I say, the Sargent electrical, primary electrical system is there. We've got an immersion heater for the boiler, so if we are on hookup, I can put the immersion heater on to heat the hot water, as well as to provide us blow air heating. That is a 240 socket based on being on hookup. My other 240 volt sockets are now wired in through the inverter, so I can use all the 240 volt sockets in the van regardless of whether we're on hookup or not. That just comes off the battery. The secondary, obviously, electrics are there because it's really quite difficult to wire things in this way. You have this little access panel of everything there, but to gain access to this you've got to take it apart, and if you look, it's riveted. There are a couple of screws on there, but they don't want you to go inside there, so that's why I've put myself a secondary sort of power system in with isolators, for not only what I plug in, but obviously the solar panel as well, so I can isolate everything that way, and obviously then I can control it with my own fuses and everything, so that's why that's in there. I'm going to mount the bed on these brackets that I've had made, which are hung to the metal of the van, so they're immensely strong. Another part of the bed that I've made is the aluminium that used to make up all these boxes, so that saves on a bit of wood, makes it a bit more lightweight. And then I'm going to use the wooden beams across here and then put the slats on, then put the bed on, but that's for another episode. Right now I think this one's long enough with everything that I've discovered, so that's where we're at now. So yeah, to see how it looks when it's finished, come back next week.